Hi, and thanks for joining. If you're new here, my name is Wendy, and this is Nina's Jewels. My husband and I buy things at places like garage sales, thrift stores, anywhere we can find things to sell online and flip for a profit. If that's content you're interested in, you're in the right place. Today's video is going to be what sold for February 18th through 24th. Before we get started, let me go over a few disclosures about our business. We are part-time resellers. We actually own another business, which is a custom picture frame shop, and I work part-time for a consulting agency. So reselling is our side hustle, but we do earn a significant part of our income doing this. So if you're looking for a good side hustle to help you supplement your income, definitely consider reselling. Also, the sold prices that you're going to hear me state today are the buyer's all-in price, meaning that's the price that they paid for the cost of the item plus the shipping. And lastly, the profit that you see on the screen is the buyer's all-in price minus our cost of goods, minus the cost that we paid to ship the item, and minus any platform fees like general platform fees and promoted fees that we've paid. We actually do not include the cost of any shipping supplies or the cost of any like federal taxes or anything like that in this profit number that we're including on the screen. The shipping supplies and federal taxes, we consider those to be like general business expenses. It's just too hard to calculate those for each individual item. So now that we've gone over those few things, let's dive in. All right, the first item that sold was a 6-piece pretend play doctor play set or a nurse play set, and included like a otoscope, a reflex hammer, a stethoscope, things like that. And we had gotten that out of a thrift store toy bag for 14 cents. It sold for $10.04. This is not an item that I would pick up by any means anywhere, but when we buy a thrift store toy bag, we're usually buying it for a specific item or two or three. And it's full of other toys. And instead of just redonating those toys or throwing them away or, getting rid of them in some way, I generally will try to list those or put them aside to create like a big lot of those items because we already own them, we've already paid for them, and so I'm trying to stretch our money as much as I can. So this was an example of that. I probably had collected several Dr. Play toys from different toy bags, and once we got enough, decided to list it as a lot. Okay, next up was a toddler size bucket hat. It was by the brand Soul, and it had a duck print all over it. It was new with tags. We had gotten this out of the Goodwill bins for just 94 cents. It sold for $11.34. Not much. I think we had this on our clearance sale to be sold off at our garage sale this year, but it sold before we could do that. And I don't know what it was about this item that made it not sell. Maybe it just, wasn't a good brand or something like that, but it did not want to sell. I mean, we had it for like 2 years, so not a great pickup. Okay, next up was a Sony Progressive Scan Ultra Slim CD or DVD player. We tested it and it worked. That we got at an estate sale for $5.41 and it sold for $20. It was a very light DVD player. We did not have the remote control. If you have the remote control, obviously on a VCR or DVD player, that will significantly increase the value. We didn't for this one, but we still managed to make profit on it. We are picking up less and less DVD players these days because they just usually don't make tons of money unless it's, a real specific model that sells for a lot. Okay, next up was a remnant piece of pink satin fabric that was mine. I had bought it for a project and did not use it. And that sold for $7.39 on our clearance sale. Next up was a really cool pair of green and white Avenza brand wingtip style wood heel shoes. They were made in Italy. We got these at a garage sale for $1 and they sold for $58.38. And actually we had an item not received case open on this item. The buyer stated that the tracking showed that it was delivered, but she hadn't gotten them yet and she definitely wanted them. She wanted us to assist her in any way to try to get the items to her. So when we get either a message from a buyer stating that they haven't gotten the item and the tracking shows that the item was received, we have kind of a pre-prepared message that we send out to the buyer that I would say 8 to 9 times out of 10, they follow all of the steps in that message will assist them in successfully locating the item. And so I will actually share that message with you guys here on the screen, and I'll also include it in our description box below if you want to use it for your own item not received cases. I basically say, hello, sorry to hear that you have not received your package. Since the tracking shows the item was delivered, here are a few things you can do on your end. Then I ask them to verify their current mailing address, and I'll usually take the time to go find the mailing address that they provided to us and include it in the message. One thing to quickly note is that this message is very long. I usually have to send it in 2 parts if they've actually opened an item not received case, because there is a limit to the number of characters, so I break it up into 2 sections. Next up, I say, please check with other members of your household to see if anyone may have put your package aside, which has actually happened to us before. Someone received the package, their family member put it in their guest bedroom, and they did not know it was in there. So that's something we always include. Please check around your mailbox, porch, yard, house, etc. to see if the package was placed there instead of your mailbox. If you live in an apartment complex, please contact your rental office to see if the package was left there, because sometimes if they have a small mailbox and the package won't fit in there, the carriers will leave it at the manager's office instead. So we always say that. And then I say, if no luck there, call your post office and supply them with the tracking number, because they can see more than what we can see online. They actually have GPS tracking ability, so they can see if the package was misdelivered, for example, or if it was actually left at the intended delivery location. So at that point, I say, if it was indeed left at your address, the postal folks will assist you in filing a loss theft report with the U.S. Postal Inspector. They can be very helpful in finding missing packages within their system due to theft, fraud, misdelivery. And then I say, thank you, something nice to close it out. But we have actually had this same issue with a package that was intended to come to us. We had ordered an item that was well over $100. It stated that it was delivered. We did not get it. And our post office helped us with their GPS delivery, figuring out that it was delivered to one of our neighbors' houses. And they had tried to contact the neighbor multiple times over and over again, asking them about the package. And they went so far as to let that neighbor know that they were going to no longer deliver mail to them until they gave the package back. And we did ultimately get the package back from our post office. Worked really hard, is what I'm saying, to get that package back for us. And they recovered it for us, and it was super helpful. So I would encourage you to take advantage of the GPS tracking services that they have available, or ask them to take advantage of the GPS tracking that they have available. Definitely do not automatically give a refund, because even if the buyer does not pursue anything in this email, if tracking states that your item was delivered and they say that they didn't get it, your seller protection as provided by eBay protects you in an instance like this, and you do not have to refund the buyer. So rest assured you're covered either way, but good customer service dictates that you send a message like this and try to assist the buyer as much as possible. So this is how we handle it. And actually, the buyer of these wingtip shoes did let me know that she reached out to her post office and they used the GPS tracking to locate the shoes at a nearby neighbor's house, and she was able to get them back. So that's really good news. We ended up getting good feedback from her, and that was a happy end to the story. I asked her if she would mind please closing the case. She did that, and that ended happy. So that's exactly how we handled a situation like that. And we've handled a multitude of situations like that in the past with a very similar result. So hopefully that is helpful to you guys. Let me know in the comments below if you handle things a different way, or if you have a different message that you send, or if you can help me improve that in any way. All right, let's move on. The next item that sold was a Batman versus Superman 2-inch Mighty Minis armored Batman figure with cape. We got this out of a thrift store toy bag for just 22 cents, and it sold for $7.78. Next up was a 2003 Build-A-Bear Workshop brown stuffed plush reindeer toy. We got that at a garage sale for $3. We actually got that at that garage sale where we got the huge big lot of Build-A-Bear clothing and things like that. And this one sold for $27.99. Next up was a vintage Sears plaid pearl snap-up women's western shirt. We got that at an estate sale for just $1.60. That's a good price at an estate sale. And that sold for $27.98. Next up was a lot of 2 packages of Plus Plus base plates. These are building toys similar to Lego or something like that. We got actually a big bulk lot of these and some other Plus Plus toys at the thrift store. We paid 54 cents for these, and these sold for $20. These are the first ones we've sold, but I think that the right buyers just have to come along. We're not going to try to clear these out by any means because they do seem kind of hard to come by, so I think these will eventually sell. Next up was an American Eagle women's green cable knit hooded cardigan sweater. This was Nina's, and so we didn't have any cost, and it sold for $19.99. I mean, we did have cost, but you know, I always put no cost if it's one of our items. Okay, next up was a pair of capri pants by the brand Vanity Collection. They had a monkey print all over them and sequins. They were kind of fancy pants. Kevin had picked these up at the thrift store for $1.89. He probably picked them up because they looked like fancy pants to him. And those sold for $16.69. They did take a while to sell. Probably not a great pickup, but you know, they did sell. Okay, next up was not a great pickup by me. These were a pair of toddler Nike Kyrie high top athletic sneakers. I am always drawn to toddler and baby sneakers. I just think they're so cute. They're like miniature little adult shoes. But they never sell that great, so I've just quit picking them up. We've had these forever, and they finally sold. But we had gotten these at the thrift store for $3.50, and they sold for $13.98. So very obviously not a great pickup. I think we had these on clearance. Next up was a 2014 Fisher-Price Little People Orange Choo Choo Zoo Train Engineer. We got that out of the Goodwill bins for 67 cents, and he sold for $9.99. Next up was a vintage set of 2 ceramic angel and musician ornaments. They were marked Japan, and the brand was White Christmas. We got these at a garage sale for $3, and they sold for $19.98. Next up was a vintage 2-inch white with black porcelain Scottish Terrier dog figurine. It did have some wear on it, so it didn't have a lot of value, but I was getting stuff at this garage sale for a really good price, and I just thought they were too cute to pass up. I paid $1 for them. They only sold for $9.58, but something that little, I don't know. I just will typically pick it up. Okay, next up was an OEM replacement Bose remote control. This is an item I definitely would recommend picking up. Anything Bose generally is a good pickup. This was in a remote bag at our thrift store. They just bag up a bunch of remotes and sell them for a bulk price. And Kevin picked up this bag because he saw the Bose remote in there. It did have a lot of significant wear. The sides of the remote where it had been used over and over, it just had a wear to the finish of the remote on there. And other than that, it seemed to be in good condition. It powered on. It seemed like it worked, but we did sell it as is. And I do think I listed it. I can't remember if I listed it used or for parts or repair. I think I listed it for parts or repair just because it seemed really old and pretty well loved. So we sold it significantly less than some of the other ones that were listed, just because we did not want to have any issues since it seemed like it had kind of been through a lot. So whoever had that remote before we had gotten it had really, really used it. And I just did not want to have any issues with it. We had paid $1.08 for that at the thrift store, and it sold for $90. So, I mean, I think the ones that were in really good condition and for sure worked were selling for maybe like 200. Do not quote me on that, but just that's based on memory, which is usually pretty bad. But still, $90 for a remote that we were feeling a little iffy about is really good. And I think that went overseas, but maybe not through the international shipping program. It might have gone to like Shop Airlines kind of place. Okay, next up was a vintage 1998 8-inch Baby Bunnies by Ann Getty's plush doll rabbit. So it was like a plush rabbit with a doll face in the typical Ann Getty style. This was a new with tags plush that we had found in the Goodwill bins for $1.50, and it sold for $18.99. Next up was a lot of 5 Victoria's Secret bras in a very specific size of 32 triple D. And they were all in really good condition. We got all of those at a garage sale for $3.55, which is a weird amount, but I had bought in bulk at that sale and then broken down my per item cost that way. These sold for $39.98. I had originally had those listed individually and did sell a couple of them that way, but when we did our annual inventory this year, I decided to lot them all together and just, clear them out. So that's how we did that, and we still made some good profit on those. Next up was a Nintendo Wii balance board, and we had bundled that with a Go Play Circus Star game. We tested it and it worked. We found this in the Goodwill bins. Our all-in cost for both the balance board and the game was $11.32, and this bundle sold for $44.99. Next up was a women's pair of Lee jeans. We found those in a storage unit for just 28 cents, and those sold for $16.99. Next up was a lot of 2 Stettler premium quality single hole metal pencil sharpeners. Each one had 4 in them, so the buyer got a total of 8 pencil sharpeners. We found those at a garage sale for 50 cents. We had paid 25 cents for each pack. I originally had those listed individually, decided to lot them together, and they sold immediately. So just like I said in a few videos ago, I feel like doing bigger bundles and bigger lots of things is working out better for us. This is another example of that. So these sold for $14 even, and that was a best offer. Next up was a vintage Mikasa Walther Floral Crystal Clear and Frosted Glass Round Fruit Bowl. This was actually mine. I didn't use it anymore, decided to sell it. That sold for $29.99. Next up was a vintage 1981 Dakin Garfield plush stuffed animal with a Christmas list and a Santa hat. He was in excellent condition. We found that at a church rummage sale for $2, and it sold for $20 even. We got a really nice message from the buyer saying that they were having a really bad day, got home, opened up their mail, and found that cute Garfield in there, and that changed their whole mood. So that was nice. I always like getting messages like that. It's always nice because when you hear that message tone on eBay, sometimes you're like, oh gosh, what's it gonna be? And then it was something good, so that made us happy. Okay, next up was a 47 MVP Youth Adjustable Strap Back blue and red embroidered Chicago Cubs baseball cap. That was gifted to us to sell by a family member. We had no cost, and it sold for $15.98. And next up, I'm going to announce the winner of our Nina's Jewels t-shirt. This week's winner is Lisa Lurcott 856. Congratulations, Lisa, and thank you so much for your support of our channel. Please reach out to us in our email address that's listed in our description box down below. Let us know what size you want, and also let us know what shipping address we should send to. And if you're interested in winning a t-shirt, all you have to do to win is be subscribed to our channel and drop a comment below. It's that easy. We also have t-shirts for sale in our eBay store, and the link for that is down below, along with a lot of other links that you might find helpful, like the official giveaway rules for the t-shirt, and our favorite supplies in our Amazon store, and a lot of the products that we use we have linked down below. So if you're looking for any information about things like that, you can always find them in our description box. And if you know anybody who might be interested in reselling content or just interested in winning a t-shirt, please share this video out with them because that would really help us out a lot as well. All right, well, let's move on. The next item that we sold was a vintage new old stock arm slinky. I just thought this was an interesting item, and so I picked it up when we were in the Goodwill bins for $1.50. Did take quite a while to sell, but it did sell for $11.99. Next up was a set of 3 shilling retro toys juggling balls. They were new in the box. These were actually my son's. He never opened them, so they were gifted to him, so we had no cost, and they sold for $11.98. Next up was a vintage 1982 Knickerbocker toy plush Little Orphan Annie ragdoll. We got that at an estate sale for $1 and it sold for $14.88. Next up was a pair of women's jeans by the brand Hype. They were dark wash, skinny, low-rise jeans. We got those out of a storage unit for just 24 cents and they sold for $11.98. Definitely not a great brand, but we already owned those from the storage unit, and instead of just, like I said, giving them away or throwing them away, we listed them and got let's see, how much did we make on those? Got the $4.66 in our pocket instead. Okay, next up was a lot of 17 brand new sealed gospel Christian music cassettes from various different artists. We found these at the thrift store for $5.14. That's how much we were all in on those. And they sold for $34.99. That was a good one. Next up was a wildlife fact groups 5 through 11. It was the 3-ring binder. I think it was maybe one of those like kind of mail order monthly, like you got different pages each month kind of book. It was vintage from 1992. Kevin had picked this up at the thrift store for $1.35 and it sold for $24.99. Next up was a Billie Eilish women's graphic t-shirt. This was Nina's and it sold for $11.18. Next up was a bad buy. This was a 4-piece toddler mix and match outfit by the brand Heartstrings. It was really cute, but it did have some staining on it that devalued it a little bit. We had gotten it at a garage sale for $4. We had paid $1 for each of the pieces, and we just had it listed forever and it would not sell. And eventually we put it on clearance, sold it for $12. We did lose some money, but we did recoup our cost, or the majority of our cost on it. So there's that. Okay, next up was an item we found in the Goodwill bins. We picked it up, kind of thinking we'll have this for just in case we need it, and we'll list it, and if it sells in the meantime, we'll have the money for it. And it's so funny how this went down too, because let me just tell you what it is first, and then I'll explain it. This was a Plumcraft Waxman toilet tank to bowl bolt and gasket kit. It was new in the package, and we had paid 92 cents for it. It sold for $9.58. And we were doing our annual inventory, and I looked at this and Kevin goes, we'd been having some trouble with one of our toilets, and Kevin goes, I'm probably going to need that. And I was like, well, if you do, we'll just pull it out of the inventory. And about 2 days later, it sold. Probably because he said that he was going to need it. I don't think he did end up needing it, but it's just, I swear it always works like that. It's so weird. Okay, next up was a set of 14 limited edition 2016 Miller Lite tumblers. They were tumblers that were metal and they looked like beer cans. And they were branded Dallas Cowboys. We had gotten these at a garage sale. We paid $14 for all of them. And we had originally had them listed in like lots of 2 or 4 or something like that, and they just weren't selling. So we decided to lot them all together and sell them that way, and they sold almost immediately. They sold for $45.38. Next up was a lot of 3 Anne of Green Gables paperback books. We had gotten these at a garage sale for $1, and they sold for $12.99. Next up was a 2004 Burger King Hanna-Barbera Scooby-Doo Shaggy Electricity Spark Monster toy. We found that in a thrift store toy bag for 22 cents and it sold for $13. Next up was a vinyl single called Hit That Perfect Beat by Bronski Beat. And we had gotten that at a garage sale for 25 cents, and it sold for $11.98. Next up were two items that sold to the same buyer. It was a Mattel Hot Wheels die-cast monster truck and a girls 4T white and pink fit and flare sundress. Two really random items to the same buyer, but you know, you never know what somebody needs. And if you are a viewer, thank you so much for your purchase. And those items, we were all in on our cost for $1.28, and they sold for $21.66. Next up was an American Girl doll. It was a Truly Me number 22 doll. We got that at a garage sale for $8, and it sold for $62.38. Next up was a Gans Webkins signature. These are the ones with the gold W on the foot, and I'll show you a picture of what that looks like because those are definitely bolos. There are some regular Webkins that are bolos, but most of the Webkins that are bolos are the ones with the gold W on the foot, and those are the signature ones. This one was a pot-bellied pig. It still had the tag with the code on it and everything. We had found this at a garage sale for $1, and it sold for $79.98. So definitely be on the lookout for those Webkin signatures. Next up was a pair of rollerblades, Zetra blades, women's inline skates. We had the box that went with them. They were in excellent condition. We got these out of that most recent storage unit that we purchased. We paid $1.16 for these skates, and they sold for $69.98 and went to Hawaii. Next up was a Simplicity pattern by Cynthia Rowley, and it was for a dress and pants and a top. It had a bunch of different stuff in there. This was mine. I never used it, and I don't remember how much I paid for it, but it sold for $10.24. Next up was a 3-pack of icy bottle sticks for your water bottles, to make ice cubes for your water bottles. And they were by the brand Progressive. They were brand new. We got those at an estate sale for $1.50, and they sold for $13.64. Next up was a handmade 4-inch celestial tea light candle oil wax melter or diffuser, and it was signed by an artist. It said JR on the bottom. We got that out of a storage unit for 28 cents, and it sold for $14.38. Next up was a Chuck E. Cheese It's My Party Birthday Medal Award. We got that at a garage sale for 25 cents, and it sold for $10. We almost always sell everything Chuck E. Cheese that we pick up. Not always for tons of money, but it always sells. So I usually pick it up if I can get it for the right price. Next up was a Program Your Mind for Success Stop Smoking Subliminal Hypnosis kind of cassette. We got that at the thrift store for 27 cents, and it sold for $9.99. Next up was a roll tab sleeve blouse by the brand Fortune and Ivy. This was actually mine. Decided to sell it because I didn't wear it anymore, and it sold for $14 even. And that wraps up all of our sales for this week. So now let's go over the totals. This week we had 47 sales for an average sale price of $23.51. Our sales totaled $1,105.20, and that made for a net profit of $532.95. I hope you found this video helpful. If you did, let us and YouTube know by hitting that like button. And the best thing that you can do to support our channel is hit that subscribe button and share it out to anybody who you think might be interested. Thanks again for joining, and we will catch you guys on the flip side.